Welcome to the Idaho Falls City Club Forum. I'm Amy Lintz. I'm the Vice Chair of the Idaho Falls City Club, and today we will be meeting with council candidates for the City of Idaho Falls. Our organization is focused on civil dialogue and conversations and providing information. So thank you very much for tuning in today. If you're not wanting to stay the whole time, you can always tune in later and you can go to our website to find the recording of this presentation. Before we get started, I wanted to thank our sponsors, Idaho National Laboratory, Floor Idaho, and KISU. Thank you very much for your continued support of the important presentations that we provide with the Idaho Falls City Club. Also, please tune in on Monday at the same time on October 18th, where we will hear from our mayoral candidates, and that will also be recorded. So again, Monday, October 18th. Our moderator today is not an unfamiliar celebrity to many of you. She is also on our board at the Idaho Falls City Club. It is Carol Honus. Although she's retired as of just recently, she's incredibly active in our community. She's involved in many organizations, including the Snake River Animal Shelter, along with an organization called CHAMPS that connects horses with people. So I would like to turn over the time now to Carol Honus, who will introduce to you our candidates and moderate the rest of the program. Thank you again for tuning in.
All right, thanks so much, Amy. I appreciate that. We have 4 of the 6 council candidates with us today. And so just so you know for sure who they are, for seat 6, it's incumbent Jim Freeman and challenger Carrie Caldwell, but Carrie couldn't be with us today. For seat 4, it is incumbent Jim Francis and challenger Robert Mark Thompson, and he is here today. Both gentlemen are here. And for seat 2, incumbent Lisa Burtonshaw, her challenger Sandra Ann Hokinson was not able to attend today. So I want you to kind of keep that a little bit straight in your head as you hear them talk, that they aren't all talking against each other as a challenger, but instead different seats that they are running for. So we're going to begin right off with Jim Freeman. He is going to give us his introduction and talk a little bit, each candidate that's here, the 4 of them, about a minute and a half, just to give us some background. So we're going to know who these candidates are, and then we'll start our questions. So Jim, you're up.
Thank you, Carol. And thank you for the opportunity today from the City Club, which I am a member of. I've been to many of these forums, and I appreciate the time. My name is Jim Freeman. I'm running for Council Seat 6 as an incumbent, and I was born and raised in Idaho Falls. I went to the University of Idaho. I've lived here pretty much all of my life, and I spent 26 years working for the Idaho Falls Fire Department as a firefighter, as a paramedic, and lastly as a captain. Retired 9 years ago, coming up on my retirement date, and since that time I've been involved with the Golf Association, with mayor's committees for the Parks and Recreation Department, and I decided I needed to have a bigger challenge, and so that's when I decided to run for council 4 years ago. I'm actually following in my family's footsteps. My grandfather, Russell Freeman, who Freeman Park is named after, was on the city council for 18 years. My father, Jim Freeman, was on the council for 16 years, and that was kind of what inspired me to seek this office. And it's been a really great thing for me for the last 4 years. I feel like I'm accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish, and I'd like to continue that work.
All right, thank you so much. And now, Jim Francis, let's hear about your background a little bit so people can better get to know you.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you, Carol, for doing this, and thank you for the City Club. City Club I've been a member of for a long time, just like Mr. Freeman, and it's an organization seeking truth and inspires people to walk away from every meeting with thoughts in their minds and things to take forward in further conversations. So that's fantastic for this city and has been for years. Speaking of inspire, I think the best way to know who I am and what I'm about is to tell you what inspires me to run for this re-election this year. And that begins with the trust that the community placed in me 4 years ago. I take that as very precious because I've been a member of this community since 1953 when I was 4 years old. But beyond that, the other element of inspiration for me is when I meet with every single person on the city staff, you just find incredible people working on this staff day in and day out, not only doing their job, but doing the extra. People in the Parks Department working on extra to remodel the stadium underneath the stadium there. People moving rocks at Heritage Park, figuring out how to help make that work. The staff in this city is amazing, whether police, fire, or whatever. I've been involved with them all over. If I can live up to what they do, it would be fantastic. And last and most important, maybe in a way, my teaching career of 43 years has given me the other inspiration, because I look at Jefferson, who gave us the purposes of government and how to make it work in the Declaration. I look at Madison and how they moved forward from the Declaration to the Constitution and firmly committed to that and what it says, and the meanings of the nonpartisan politics and non-factionalism that Mr. Madison had in mind when he wrote that. And then there is also, of course, George Washington, who warned us of the excesses of party politics, and over again, I'll read that farewell address time and again. And then there's another point to keep in mind, too, and that is, as Lincoln said in the Gettysburg Address, the whole point of dedicated to the unfinished work. And that's what we have, a city that has so much, and we have more to go. Thank you.
All right, next is Lisa Burtonshaw, and Lisa's a rather new incumbent. So Lisa, explain how you are on the council.
Hi, thank you, Carol. My name is Lisa Mickle Burtonshaw. I've lived essentially my entire life here in Idaho Falls as well, other than a few short years that I moved away for college. I attended school at Dora Erickson, Falls Valley, Bonneville Junior High, and Bonneville High School, where I happened to meet my husband the beginning of our sophomore year. And we have 4 beautiful children with just one child at home. And when we moved back to Idaho Falls, I do have a degree from Brigham Young University in mechanical engineering, which has served me well over the years as a problem solver. But when my husband and I moved back to Idaho Falls in 2002, I immediately began as the representative on the PTO, and it really started my quest in service to this community. And in 2008, I was appointed to the school board for District 91, and I served on that position for 10 years, with 5 of those being the chairman of that board. And I kind of thought, well, okay, that would be the time of my community service. And then this past spring, when Shelley Smead had to leave the council for the short remainder of her time, I put in an application and joined the Idaho Falls City Council. So I've been on that council now for, about 6 or 7 months. And the reason that I am running now, after having just served on the council for a short time, is because of the growth that is happening in the city. That's really kind of the issue that I'm seeing. I think that increased traffic, the rising home values, and the threat of losing connectivity, I think that my skills as both being a problem solver and someone who really enjoys engaging the community is something to bring that connectivity to Idaho Falls is super important to me.
Thank you, Lisa. And now, one of the newer faces that you may not recognize yet, but you will in the future, Rob Thompson. Rob, you told us to call you Rob, but it's Robert Mark Thompson, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you wanted to run for office.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Robert Thompson. I grew up on actually a church farm just south of Idaho Falls, right below the Country Club golf course. I went to school at Idaho Falls High School, and funny enough, Jim Francis was my favorite history teacher. So it's fun to be here with him today and get reacquainted. I've been a financial professional for 23 years. I've also owned various different businesses, and I've also been a land developer. So I have a real unique perspective on planning, planning for my clients. I have a real unique perspective on how taxes affect businesses and individuals in the community. And I've acquired and used a lot of these skills, not per se in a public service capacity, but in a more of a real world application. If things went wrong in my life, or if I did something wrong, I paid for it. It hurt both my business and my family. As a financial professional for 23 years, I feel like I have a unique perspective on helping not only the city of Idaho Falls, but also the citizens. And that's it.
Very good, thank you. Okay, so Lisa, in your introduction there, you brought up, some of the big issues that are questions that we have on this list. The questions came from City Club members, and one of the ones that was hit over and over and over again is this growth. I mean, this is a very exciting time to be a part of the Idaho Falls community. Huge things could be happening in our future. Great numbers of people might be moving here for big site projects. Where are they going to live? It's a huge issue. There's no affordable housing, or very little anyway. What can you do about that?
Thanks, Carol. I think that there are actually several things that the city can help with that situation. One of them that we can do is we can modify our ordinances to allow for a variety of housing types within the city. I think that sprawl has become an issue in our city. I think that it's unsustainable to be able to kind of continue the single unit family housing that just continues to sprawl both south and north of town. I think we need to look at ordinances that allow for like a mother-in-law suite off of a property. And I also think we really need to pay good attention to infill within our community. We already have the infrastructure, the roads, and the sewer and the water already set up in those places in town. And so if we can really focus on getting developers to create a more dense housing within the infill of Idaho Falls, it will help create a more walkable place for new residents, as well as if they need to go to some kind of an amenity, then they can, maybe it's one traffic light instead of 4 traffic lights to get there. Because Idaho Falls really is growing, and we're the heart of this entire community, and we need to be able to work together to come up with these kind of solutions so that we can sustain the growth into the future. I am worried, Carol, that we would eventually all be priced out of this market. With as many people are coming in and the rising values, we don't want to be a Jackson Hole where we're just landlocked and we'd no longer be able to even afford, or generations to come would be able to afford moving back to Idaho Falls.
Yeah, I see it as an issue just because, and I put this out there, I have a 33-year-old son looking for a place to live. That is not my house. And there's nothing. There's no housing. So you guys, I'll just say that in case anybody has anything, give me a call. Let's talk next to Rob, because he also mentioned that he could see the changes in the city and that it's definitely growing. So Rob, you'd be brand new to this whole idea. What in the world could you do to get us some affordable housing?
Yeah, there's a man that you should follow. His name is Brian Westbury. He's an economist, and he's saying, he says right now, the largest migration of people in the United States is happening since the Great Depression. People are moving from all over the country to come right here to Idaho. Why are they coming to Idaho? Well, because we have great family values, we have safe communities, and we have affordable housing. It's getting much more expensive, but in relation to California and other places, we have affordable housing. So how can we keep housing more affordable? Well, we need to be able to supply more housing, right? What are the bottlenecks that are making it hard for us to supply more housing? Well, a lot of it is planning and zoning. One of the things that I'm very concerned about is that our city government and our county government, they don't seem to be getting along seems to be a little bit strong, but they have not come up with a comprehensive long-term planning strategy for over 4 years. This affects us in many different ways. It affects how we invest out our infrastructure, how we invest in sewer, how we invest in water, and all of these different things. It's very critical, because if we're going to expand, we're going to grow. We're going to grow out into the county in a lot of different ways. And you see, if you look at a city map, there's all of these little communities out in the county that have been annexed, and there's like little pockets of county inside of these annexes. It's unorganized, it's unplanned, and things need to change from a planning standpoint.
So for you to be able to provide more affordable housing for the city of Idaho Falls, your main game plan is like zoning, planning and zoning
Zoning is number one,
differences?
and you have to provide inventory. The reason why affordable why the cost of homes are going out of control and you can't afford it is because there is no inventory.
Okay, thank you. Jim Freeman, if you have anything to add to this this is the biggest issue that I got, in response. If you have anything to add, please do, and if not, I'll ask another question. But what do you think?
Yeah, I do have a couple things to add, and we have been facilitating builders in the last 4 years. On my time on council, we have a living document in our zoning ordinance, and we have changed it often in the last 4 years to accommodate the way growth is happening. And like it's been said before, we can't stop the growth, so we have to deal with it. We do have a plan in place right now to help developers help pay for some of the impacts they're having on our infrastructure, and it's called impact fees. And we just last night at council meeting, we appointed the board for the impact fee committee for those people to start. That was one of the things we have to do in order to start using impact fees, and so to have the developers pay for development is where we're trying to head. So as far as inventory goes, Carol, we have a lot of building going on Idaho Falls right now. It's if you haven't been driving around, we approved numerous new developments in the last several months, and yeah, they're coming. They're getting built, and I think we're going to relieve some of that pressure.
You see it coming. All right, thank you very much. Jim Francis, again, would you like to add to the number one question?
Absolutely.
And if not, I'll ask you another question, but go ahead.
I'm ready. All right, thank you, Carol. So we tend to dwell on negatives associated with growth. I'm going to dwell on some positives. I mean, we're a city that's so attractive that Costco deliberately wanted to be in this city, not anywhere else, right here. We have a city that's so attractive that a big meatpacking plant's coming in, I mean major, and they wanted to be in the city and they annexed in. Growth is actually helping this city in many ways by opening opportunities, as you would imagine. So how do you make it work? You make it work by proactive planning. And that's where last night, again, as Mr. Freeman referred to things that actually in council, we approved a pilot program to establish a customized transit system for this city. That's how you start figuring out, we're going to do this. This is part of what a big city has to do. And we're ready for it. And we're ready to help the people that need that kind of transit. We're ready with the planning and zoning, working on getting what's called get the stupid out of zoning, things that are in the zoning codes that are actually preventing us from providing or opening doors for the developers to develop affordable housing. Our planning department helped to redo the Bonneville Hotel. It's now a vibrant kind of place to live with a variety of people living there. This is how growth actually becomes our opportunity, our chance to be something more than we were before, but not lose our character, because we don't have to give up the core of our city. We can hold that core. In fact, we need to help that core. So the redevelopment plans for the south of downtown, for the Northgate area, help to make people feel, wow, this is an exciting place. So I'm not going to fight the growth for taking advantage of it, but being proactive in dealing with it.
I know the biggest concern, this is just stuck in my head for more than a year now, is that there might be a project that comes to the site that would bring 5,000 construction workers. Your idea, Jim, I should say Mr. Francis to keep the two Jims separate, but your idea, it sounds a little bit long-term future. We might need 5,000 housing units in a year or sooner. What's the plan for that?
I'm a firm believer in the market, and business developers are ready to develop in this community. We just have to work with them to help make that happen, and we are doing that right now. So it's not like it's not happening. It is happening, and our development department is forward thinking. We've just come up with a whole new comprehensive plan to help make that happen and look at where things belong and don't belong. We have developing a plan for an innovative district, working residents in with expansion of INL campus and the university campus in this northern part of the city. I say the way you do that is you help developers, you help the market be there. We have a wastewater system that's at not anywhere near capacity. We're ready for this. We know how to do it. And we know how, look at our airport. We're one of the busiest airports per capita around this whole country. And that's because we are attractive and we've made it work. So I say let the market work and give the infrastructure to allow the market to work even better than it can.
And let them build mother-in-law suites.
I don't oppose that at all.
Thank you very much. Liza, we have a question in from the audience, and I always like to try to take these because I want you to know we are paying attention to the fact that you're out there listening. And I've seen several letters to the editor on this. I live in Blackfoot, and so it isn't as much my issue, but I have kind of smiled at it a few times. It is the city building a water tower in the middle of a park. And there's people that have quite an issue with that. They say it is odds with public input. It is at odds with the Imagine plan, the draft for green and public spaces in Idaho Falls. So this viewer would like us to put your perspective out there on what about that water tower design and location?
Thanks, Carol. So because I did come on the council in the spring, the decision to move the water tower to South Capitol Park had already taken place prior. So I jumped in and I really began talking to people. The first thing I learned is the water tower does need to be replaced. It has outlived its life expectancy. There become safety issues. The other thing that I learned is that how important the water tower is. That this gravity tower, it feeds all 5 wells and it provides the pressure to those wells. So the water tower needs to remain in pretty much the same proximity of where it is now, just from a cost perspective to try and connect to all 5 of those wells. So at the time that I came onto the council, the water tower had already been sited for South Capitol Park. And several of the businesses had already come out and spoken against any of the other locations. And so one of the things that I have committed is I will not go back to open it up to those businesses who already came out in concern of their businesses. I am also a small business owner, and the idea of the construction going down Cliff Street and taking up parking from downtown business owners, it really doesn't sit well with me. So what are our other options? Well, we have looked and we have approached many other businesses down in the south downtown area to see if there would be a suitable location for the city to buy property. And we just haven't had anybody who's willing to sell that property. So it does look like that tower is going to be in South Capitol Park. And it's not that we haven't listened to people on this issue. We have listened, and we really are trying to work with it. The one thing that I am committed to is that because South Capitol Park was built with land and water conservation funds, we're not going to put the water tower in South Capitol Park until we have mitigated the land and water conservation, so that this city can once again have access to those federal dollars so that we can continue adding to the amenities of Idaho Falls that the residents have become to appreciate, as well as create an overall plan for South Capitol Park. There could be some improvements to that park that are made, even with the water tower in there, that can make it a much more enjoyable passive park for our community downtown.
All right, let me follow that up with you, Rob. What about using eminent domain and picking a good spot and booting somebody out? I know that sounds really crazy, but for the betterment of the entire community, it does happen sometimes.
Yeah. Booting someone. I mean, I guess the question is booting somewhere, but also the larger question is about this water tower and where it should go. I'm not a big fan of necessarily accepting federal dollars under, and under. Usually, when federal dollars are given, there's strings attached, so you have to be very careful what you accept. We've received matching funds for many parks here in the city of Idaho Falls, and South Park was one of those places where we receive funding to receive a park. If we do that, if we put the water tower right there, it puts us at risk for receiving funding for parks in the future. And so I was a developer, and we developed land out where there was no infrastructure, and we had to put in a new sewage system. We had to put in new water system. And to be honest, I don't know that it's even necessary that we have a water tower. We were given recommendations and based on new technology that was available that we could have an emergency pumping system, and we could apply pressure using pumps, variable drive pumps. The engineers are much smarter than everyone, but I don't know that they've looked at all of the different options. And this comes to another point, is the communication from the city. We have 25 websites here in the city of Idaho Falls, and we have 3 public information officers. And the problem isn't that they're not getting enough information out. The problem is that they're basically governing empty rooms. Nobody is coming to those meetings. And why are they not coming to those meetings? And I feel the reason why they're not coming to those meetings is because of the rules and regulations around it. They make it right now impossible. If they have something on the agenda, you cannot talk about it. You have to come to another meeting to talk about it.
You're sort of coming off topic just a little bit, and it doesn't mean that we can't return, to the concerns you have about people being able to be heard. But again, would you support the idea of going into an old store or something in downtown Idaho Falls and saying you're out?
Yes.
For the good of the people,
Yeah,
this is where we need to put a water tower.
Well, what I would first do is try to negotiate with the owner, do everything we can to make sure that we're not taking advantage of that person. And if those things fail and it's the best thing for the city, then yes, I would be in favor of that.
Okay, thank you very much. Jim Freeman, kind of following along this, the whole parks idea that has come up and the development of them, where are you on Heritage Park?
Oh, caught me by surprise, Carol.
Oh, did you want me to
It's
ask
okay.
you something else?
No, that's fine. Heritage Park is actually, most of the grading is done down there. We just received a $750,000 check from the Rotary Club for continued work at Heritage Park, and so we're really excited about that. The parking lot's done, the roads are in, most of the grading is done. In the spring, we were hoping to do it this fall, but it looks like it's going to have to be in the spring. We're going to get the sprinkler system in and start growing some grass down there, and I think the park will be in use by next summer.
So, absolutely nothing negative about it in your mind's eye.
No, we're
All
real
right.
excited about it. It's been a long time coming.
Okay, and if anybody else does have something, they can suggest later what that negative might be. But I'm just going to move right into now to urban renewal and where we stand on that. So, Jim Francis, you're up, and tell me a little bit about urban renewal districts, yay or nay?
Carol, please give me at least a minute to come back to the eminent domain question.
Okay, I'll give you 30. How's that?
Okay, 30 minutes? No.
No.
I'm very reluctant to use eminent domain because I so firmly believe in private property and the importance of private property. And I think that Ms. Burtonshaw laid out, I have a very similar position to what she said, but the one thing I will add to that is we have to lay this conversion plan in front of the public and get the public response to that. I wouldn't look at eminent domain. I think everybody should know now, and I haven't been able to say this earlier because any property of acquisition is got to be quiet for the city, but I'll point out that I spent the last 4 months looking at an alternate position and trying to talk to staff about it and the mayor about it, and I just found out this last week that it is absolutely unavailable. I don't support taking any private property for eminent domain unless the real safety of the community is there. Private
Okay.
property is crucial. Okay.
Right.
Okay,
Pretty
now
close,
go back
30.
to-
Now, urban renewal. How do you feel about that? Because sometimes that does involve scooting somebody out to make it even better along the river or whatever the project is. So in general, urban renewal.
Well, I like to think of urban renewal in our way of doing redevelopment plans, where you lay out, say, you take the area of land from Broadway down to Pancarry, which I call south of downtown, and you think about, okay, what kind of plan or vision is there, does the city have? And you write that first with consultants helping you figure this out. And then you take that plan and the city does its part to build the catalyst to make that all happen, to make it a place that businesses want to come to be redevelopment. But you don't force businesses to do a certain thing just because it's in the plan. It's not that kind of plan. It's a dynamic thing. It says, this is our vision. This is how it can be. We've done the same thing for the Northgate area and the First Street area, where we lay a redevelopment plan out. This is where we want to go. This is why we chose to put the law enforcement center in that area as a catalyst in the Northgate area to help urban renewal, you call it. But I don't think the city should be tearing down buildings and insisting that it be a certain way. This is, again, part of the market. So you become, as a city, the facilitator. You become the planner. You become the visionary. You help businesses say, or developers say, I could do this. I see how it's going to work. I see how it's going to mesh in with other things. I see how it's going to mesh with the city plan. So that's my answer.
All right, thank you very much. Liza, on to a new topic.
Excuse me, Lisa.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I have a Liza on the
There's so
board.
many great Lizas in this town that I.
But please, let's keep it clear. My name is Lisa. Okay, I feel like that's very fair. Why? I mean, you've been on the council just long enough to probably get a few bumps and bruises. You know, some of these jobs are kind of thankless. School board, city council. With that in mind, and really walking into this with your eyes wide open, having kind of that test run, why in the world do you want to run for office?
So, other than what I had mentioned at the first, this last year, when we ended up in kind of COVID lockdown and there was so much negativity going around, there was a group of people in our community that we really wanted something positive to be happening. And so we looked to the Idaho Falls District 91 to help us to partner in an athletic complex for the sports down in off of 49th Street. Right now, IF High School is so landlocked, and the city owns the retention pond behind the school, and we have coaches out there after big storms and prior to their practices that are out there looking for the things that come out of a septic system. And so it's really important, we felt as a community, to push something positive. So we worked for a year in order to try and get the school board and public-private partnership to be able to work on what's now going to be called the Tiger Athletic Complex, or the TAC. And just working positively in that arena just inspired me once again to engage locally, to look at all the great things that came before me, and to say, no, I want to be part of that moving forward.
Thank you. Rob, what about you? You're kind of, new to the world of politics. Why would you want to get involved?
In the city government?
City government.
Well, I've lived in Idaho Falls for many years. I grew up here, and as I've grown up, I've noticed certain trends that have happened. I've seen Walmart move out of Idaho Falls. I've seen many other businesses move out of Idaho Falls. The whole east part of Ammon has moved out of Idaho Falls. And we have many, many great things here. And in my business, there is a term, it's called the canary in the coal mine. Like, there's something wrong. Why are businesses moving away? Cow Ranch just moved away not too long ago. We have a few companies moving back in, but you've got Melaleuca, for example. Melaleuca, and talking about urban renewal, Melaleuca built their building all the way out in the county. You think about the infrastructure, the water, the sewer, the power, everything that just before they even put a brick down to put that building out there, and for whatever reason, it was cheaper for Melaleuca to go out there than it was here in the city of Idaho Falls. If our taxes were reasonable, businesses would come. And what's happening is we are pushing businesses out. That's why Ammon is even here today, is because Ammon is cheaper to do business there. They have less regulation. But if we can make it a business-friendly environment, businesses will come here, and then the tax burden will not be placed upon the citizens alone. The tax burden will be placed upon businesses as well, and that's where big taxes come from.
And is that why you want to run? You'd really like to
That's
change?
why I want to run, because those things, you know, I'm a real big believer in supply-side economics. Meaning if you will incentivize businesses, things will come here. And if we have businesses, we have good jobs here, that means there's a good place for my family and generations after me to come and enjoy what I've enjoyed here in the city of Idaho Falls.
All right, thank you. Jim Freeman, what do you think the most pressing challenge is right now for the city?
No, we've already mentioned that, and it's growth, in my opinion. We have to deal with it, and it's because it's coming, and we can't control that. So, and I know a lot of people, I've heard this multiple times, going door to door during this election, people bring up the fact that I don't want Idaho Falls to change. I don't want all these people coming here from other places. And, we can't control that. We just were named one of the best small city in America. So that draws people here. And as Mr. Francis stated earlier, I think that's a plus for us. We need to embrace it. We're doing all we can at our level. That's one of the reasons I wanted to run for council, if I can go back to your earlier question, is that you can make positive change at this level. The vitriol that we see at the national level or even at the state level shouldn't exist at the city level. So I'm really excited about the fact that we can make positive change at the city level, and I'm really glad to be able to do that. So thank you,
Very
Carol.
good. Jim Francis, public transportation, it's not great in Idaho Falls. Do you even think that's an issue?
Absolutely, I think that's an issue. You certainly are right. And here's the thing, that you can look at it. People that are challenged in a variety of ways, don't have a car, don't drive. We can help them. And particularly as the city grows, getting from place to place is going to be more difficult. But we're not the type of city that's ready for a fixed route, big, massive transit system. We're the type of city that's ready for this adaptive program called microtransit. And last night, we just approved going forward with it. So Idaho Falls itself, the other communities around aren't ready to participate, but Idaho Falls itself is introducing this point-to-point transportation under the Greater Idaho Falls Transit, and that will be its name. And it will be vans or small vehicles that move people around for $1.50 a ride. It's a pilot program for 2 years, so we can see if it works. But to me, this is perfect because we are that small city that's just moving to be something slightly different and bigger. And to have this, trying it for 2 years, and then come back to it and go, do we expand this? Do we put in a couple of fixed routes? Do we make a downtown loop so people can park on the fringes and then come downtown to go to a movie or whatever? This is exactly what we need to do. It's called creative planning, and that's what this city is about. You would be amazed by the staff people in this city and what they do. Did I answer that question?
Yes, you did. I didn't realize that it had been a topic of discussion at last night's city council
I'd like to
meeting.
point something else last night, too.
Sure.
If I had 30 seconds. And that is, speaking of business, last night we were discussing adding a regulation for developers. And a developer spoke to us and said, that regulation will actually help us. It's called neighborhood meetings before building a new project. That is exactly what regulation should be to help developers succeed. It's not in their way.
Thank you very much. All right, Miss Lisa. We've got 2 questions here from people that are watching live right now, and it's about the schools. And since you have had some experience on the school board, maybe you'll be the best person to answer this for us. How can the city partner with the school districts to provide for the growth and support kids? I mean, we're all talking about growth is our biggest issue in Idaho Falls. Well, that definitely affects the schools. So does the city have any kind of a responsibility to do something to help the schools?
Well, because we are separate municipalities, there are some things that we don't have any control over. But one thing that we do have in our city it's special to our city is the amount of youth programming that we have in our city. People love raising their kids in our city, but a lot of our amenities right now, because we're the regional provider of those amenities, they are overused and overprogrammed. And I think that as a city, we need to be able to look at, how much our pool has become important to the youth in this city. It's a school sanctioned sport. None of our schools have a pool. None of our schools have an ice rink. So there are some, some of the older or maybe like a gym. That used to be pretty typical that a school provides a gym, but schools aren't being able to provide a pool and an ice rink. And so I think that those are some of the issues that we need to deal with as a city. Maybe it is really time to go into public-private partnerships to look at a community center, not to help with the fitness of the community and not to compete with local gyms, but to provide more ice time, more pool time. Those are things that I would look at using public-private partnerships, and I would look at federal grants in order to provide those for our youth.
All right.
Can I add one more thing, just
Sure.
really quick? It doesn't have to do with the schools, but I would just add to Mr. Thompson's comments about Walmart leaving and some of those other leaving. I think that, the city doesn't want us to kind of chase shadows. When you look at what has come in, Walmart did come back. It's on Utah Avenue, in the heart of downtown. So we have Walmart, we have the Hilton Garden, we have Home 2 Suites, we have all of what is Snake River Landing, all of the hotel districts with restaurants on both sides. We have Jackson Hole Junction, we have Costco, and we have this meatpacking plant that Councilor Francis talked about. I think that Idaho Falls has really become the place because we have the infrastructure ready to go for the developers.
So with that in mind, Rob, we have infrastructure ready to go for development. Do we have traffic problems today in Idaho Falls?
Yeah, we do. We have traffic problems. I live right off of South Boulevard, and Sunnyside is can be kind of crazy.
Do you have ideas, should you be elected, on what you could do about traffic problems?
Well, I think that maybe a highway, a new governing taxing body that could be established for a highway district could help in alleviating some of this traffic. The problem is that a lot of times in Idaho Falls we end up picking up the bill for a lot of the expenses to fund growth in Ammon and to fund growth in the county. And so we need to, make sure that whatever projects that we do, that cost is shouldered by the entire community and the communities that those things will benefit. So, highway district could be beneficial to Bonneville County and helping maybe develop some of that infrastructure out to help alleviate some of the traffic.
Some of the traffic problems. Okay, thank you. Jim, do you support the recent projects that are underway by the Idaho Falls Redevelopment Agency?
Well, yeah, of course I do, and I believe in the redevelopment agency. They've done a lot of good. We just closed one on Lindsay Boulevard in the last couple of years. People don't remember that, but that was just a field out there where the Shiloh got built and the Sandpiper is, and a couple of new hotels now. That was all developed as a redevelopment area. So yeah, we are looking at South Downtown right now, SoDo. And we have plans coming together for that area. As Mr. Francis mentioned earlier, we have the Northgate Mile and First Street corridors that we're working on as a redevelopment, and downtown with the Bonneville Hotel also was involved with redevelopment. So yeah, they are a great partner for us, the redevelopment agency. Tom Halley sits on that board, who's on the council, and I'm happy to accommodate their suggestions, so thank you.
You bet. Jim Francis, you told me when we first came in not to, kind of put all you incumbents in the same bucket because you do not always vote 6-0. On redevelopment, was there any debate on that amongst council members, or is it pretty much gung-ho yay for everybody.
No, to the best of my memory, related to the redevelopment programs we've just talked about and those plans, we've been together.
On board on that?
6-0, yeah.
Okay. If you could change anything in our zoning laws, like you get reelected, anything in our zoning laws, what might it be?
It would be a way of maintaining the character of this city and the way it feels in what I call the core, which is the downtown, the numbered streets with all the trees, and a mix of kind of housing. That's what I would maintain, because that's our character. Could I get back to one thing on traffic before you go on?
Uh-huh.
I'd like to too.
Yeah.
Oh, you boys. Go ahead.
Well, the thing about traffic is, honestly, I think just within the last year or two, we've suddenly noticed that it backs up all over the place. It's a problem. So what do you do if you're on the city council? You support the hiring of a traffic engineer to study how to make the lights on Broadway work so you can go all the way through. We did that just this last year. We now have a traffic engineer who is specializing in coordinating the movement of that traffic. That's the first step in addressing all of this. It's a responsive council. It's thinking about these kinds of things. Okay.
Thank you. Jim Freeman, you want to add to that?
Yes, I did, Carol, and that was one of the points I was going to make, was that we just did hire a traffic engineer in the last 6 months to start coordinating our signals and so forth. Also, I'm the chair of the board for Bonneville Metropolitan Planning Organization, and we are approaching an area with apportionment as far as federal funds go. How much the county gets, how much the city gets, how much the state gets, and how that's split up. And it's become apparent that those apportionments are out of whack, that the cities aren't getting the share that they deserve. We don't feel. And so we are going to start negotiations on those apportionments of those federal dollars that come our way, that come through the state of Idaho, and try to square that up and make sure that Idaho Falls is getting our fair share.
Okay, and as far as zoning goes, anything in particular you would really want to get rid of or add to?
Not on zoning, no.
Not on zoning?
I would make one warning. Talking to my compatriots in Boise when we go to Association Idaho Cities, the folks in the Treasure Valley are not real happy with the Ada County Highway District. There are winners and losers in that scenario, and many of them have warned us not to adopt a highway district.
Very interesting. Rob, this is a tough one, and this is a big one. I'll probably have all four of you comment on it because it deals with the homeless and the needy in our area. This is a question that just got called in from one of the viewers out there. We've got to address it. Homelessness is a big problem in Idaho Falls. I think it's even worse maybe in Blackfoot because of the fact we don't even have a shelter in Blackfoot. At least there's some places here that people can go to. But what could you possibly do as city council to attack this homelessness problem? And Rob, we'll start with you. It'd be a big bite for you as a new council member should you be elected.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a big question, and I have noticed that a lot as I've driven around town and seeing people propositioning for money on the corners and things like this. And I'll bring it back to some of the people that have come to me that have moved from California, right? And they said they started seeing these problems when they started bringing in a tremendous amount of subsidized homes to the area, subsidized housing. In an area like, say, for example, Rexburg and ISU, where you've got a lot of students going to college, that in those areas, that subsidized housing may be very appropriate. But in the city of Idaho Falls, basically what they are telling me, because they are moving here, trying to escape from California, right? And they're saying the problem started when California started zoning and putting in all of these subsidized housing projects. And basically what they've said is, if you build it, they will come here. And so I know that might sound harsh or mean, but we want to attract the type of families who will come here and provide the the backbone of our community, that are good, law-abiding, respectful citizens. It's not like the homeless aren't, but if we continue to provide a place for subsidized housing, then that's basically what we'll get in the end. We will attract those people from all over the world.
Lisa, I bet you'd like to comment on that.
Yeah, I do think that there are a lot of people in Idaho Falls right now that are feeling the pinch in housing, and they actually are homeowners. But the cost of housing in Idaho Falls is really driving just our current homeowners to be kind of house poor. It's I think it's definitely just a number of roofs that people can fit under. And so for me, I just think it's really about, once again, circling back around to allowing the market to really step in and soften our market so that there are more roofs available for people to get into. I think people end up, houseless for a variety of reasons, and not because they move into an area. It's because these are our neighbors, these are our friends, and for one reason or another, they have had situations in their life that have left them unable to provide the roof over their house. The roof over their head. And so I would definitely try and take that compassionate approach that just let's hold on, let's get the housing available to us so that it can benefit our entire community, and those who really are living on the fringes from paycheck to paycheck. They need our compassion and our support while the developers get the houses built.
Jim Francis, same question.
Yes, and thank you, because I want to come back to your zoning question because I think it relates here too. You asked me what I would change about zoning, I believe, and the one thing I would say is, as planners in this city, we should help developers see creative ways to develop housing options, and that's one solution for some of the homeless people. What you can say about homelessness is it is a multifaceted problem. Honestly, some people are homeless. They have a job. They just can't find a place to live that we consider a home. They buy a van and they live in it. We have to help that kind of person find a place they can be secure. But that's different than someone who's suffering from addiction. We have a crisis center in this city now that helps people. The Behavioral Health Crisis Center, of which I'm on the board, but that is a place that people can go to get help immediately for a day, and then from there to have follow-up for treatment in the community or help in the community. So we have that problem. We have people that just flat out want to be homeless, and we have to kind of figure that out a little bit. But we cannot solve this problem with just one thing, and city government by itself can't solve this problem. We need the rescue mission, which helps tremendously. We need the Haven. We need places like that. It's going to be multifaceted. One thing we could do as a city is we could develop a kind of a card or something we could give people to say, here are some options that you could take if this helps you, because no one plan is going to solve homelessness around this country, much less Idaho Falls.
Okay, this will be the last question, and then we'll have your closing remarks. And I want each one of you to answer this. If you received $1 million grant for the city, how would you spend it? Jim, you want to go first?
Sure. I would fully fund a transportation system, a public transportation system. I think that's one of the things we need in this city, and we've got the gift program going right now, and that's about when we get done with this pilot project. That's the cost that we're looking at is about to run this for about a year. It's around $800,000 we're estimating, but we won't know until we get the data back from this pilot project. But yeah, that would be
Your dream.
dream grant. I think that solves a lot of problems. It takes pressure off of our road system. Mm-hmm. We talked about traffic earlier, and
right.
and we get more people riding ride share and instead of driving their own car. And people could choose not to drive. I'm not just talking about this serving people that don't have a car or can't drive. I'm talking about people could choose not to drive because it would be very affordable. It might be more affordable than driving your own car.
What do you think about that, Rob?
One of the things that I would be very careful of is we will build assets and we will build businesses in this community that are not self-sustaining. If we were to have a transport system, I would want to make sure that it was self-sustaining.
Well, you can have whatever you want because this is a dream. You have
Okay.
you have $1 million, buddy. So how do you want to spend it?
You know what? Honestly, if we had $1 million, what I would probably do is I would use that money to match donations to create some form of an endowment that would, for example, take care of the zoo. The zoo costs us $2 million every single year above and beyond ticketing, right? That's a business that is not self-sustaining, yet we all love the business. We all love the zoo. We want our kids to go to the zoo, right? Right now, it's costing us a lot of money. I would use that money and I maybe match funds to create some kind of an endowment that would take care of the ongoing expenses of the zoo
There's
and
your
other
dream.
things that cost the city money on an ongoing basis.
Okay, Lisa, your $1 million dream.
$1 million dream. So one thing that I have learned is one-time money is one-time money. And so I would not create any kind of programming. I would work really hard with the community. I would engage the community to say, where would this $1 million best be spent? I think we would put some parameters on it that was like, these can't go to ongoing costs, but really engage the community in some kind of a participation that we could say, let's fix this project or let's fix this. I think that there are $1 million does not go as far as it used to go. It does not. So $1 million would be, we're going to improve the lighting at this park. And we're going to fix the sprinkler system at this park. And maybe we'll put some benches in at Heritage Park. I think that there is a way to build consensus around $1 million that would really benefit the community.
And last but not least, Jim Francis. It's a dream. Somebody gives you $1
It's a
million
dream.
grant. What do you want to do with it?
Thank you, Carol. It's a dream, and I assume what you meant by that is $1 million a year, which I'm ready
Well,
to go with. And
go
I'm
with the
gonna
big
spend
dream.
it for the police department because we have a plan to staff it out fully over the next 3 to 5 years. We could do that now, and then, as the chief says, once we get there, we can really become a community policing staff, and we can do a lot of creative things with our police force. So I'm taking that $1 million right now, and I'll take it every year you give it to me. Thank you very much. And I just spent it on the police department to improve exactly what our chief wants to do, which is that reminder that when you're on council, it's not us to go to the police and say, do this, do that. No, it's to hire the right person and to say, what do you need? How can we get there? And if we could get there in 1 year, thanks to your money, I'll do it.
All right, thank you very much. You now each have a minute and a half to wrap up. Just sum up anything you want to say, and that will end our program for today. So, Jim Freeman, are you up? Is that good? All right.
Here I am. Thank you, Carol.
You bet.
It's went awfully quickly, actually. I mentioned earlier Idaho Falls named best small city in the United States. So I'm very proud of that. And there's a lot of things that have happened on our watch, my watch in the last 4 years, and I'm just going to run over a couple of those. We are developing one of the finest fiber systems, the fiber to home systems in the entire country, through Idaho Falls Fiber. We are building a new police facility, and that was one of the things that I promised 4 years ago that I was going to work on, and I'm really glad to see that coming to fruition. We expect to break ground this spring. I was really involved with a hands-free ordinance for the city of Idaho Falls. I actually co-authored it with our legal department, and it's been taken up by the entire state of Idaho. So I'm very proud of the fact that happened on my watch. It was mentioned earlier about our airport and the growth we've seen there, and the number of new flights we have, and the number of employments that are at record levels. And so Idaho Falls, we're doing very well, and I'm very proud of that. And I would appreciate the opportunity to continue to lead us in that right direction.
All right, Rob Thompson.
Yeah, I've received various different emails from people saying that they are concerned about the values of their home going up, the assessed values causing their taxes to go up. In fact, from one concerned citizen, I said, I am about to be taxed out of my home. I am a financial professional. I understand money, I understand economics, and I understand business. And so I think going forward, looking at the taxes that we charge our citizens and how it affects our citizens, how it affects the businesses, we are one of two of the highest taxing cities in the whole state of Idaho. And so I think that that's something that we need to acknowledge and we need to address. And as an investment advisor, as a financial planner, I would be that person that would watch over those tax dollars for you and to make sure that they are being spent wisely and carefully.
All right, Lisa?
Okay, really quickly, I know it was, probably not intentionally misrepresented, but, as far as taxes go, we're very comparable to the cities around this state that are our size. Some a little more, some a little less. Pocatello, Chubbuck, Caldwell, Rigby, Shelley, those are all right comparable to our tax rate, several of those actually being higher. So I do want to just put that out there. So just in my conclusion, one thing that I have noticed, just particularly even running for the council as opposed to being on the council, is that it's this time of election time when a lot of issues really do get brought up. And so I'm not saying that Idaho Falls doesn't have some problems and we can tackle those problems, but I would echo what Jim Freeman said, which is what a great place we live in. We've created this problem for ourselves by becoming so attractive. We have a regional airport that is growing. We have a fiber network that's called Idaho Falls Fiber. We have Idaho Falls Power, which provides the lowest rates for us. So I do think that we can look at these problems and collectively solve them because we created this great city collectively. And one of the things that I really do believe, it's a scripture, but it is a personal motto, that we do not drink from the wells that we dug. And I'm inspired by the people who have come before us, and I would be honored to continue their legacy.
Thank you. And Jim Francis, you're going to wrap it up for us.
All right, I'd like to make 3 points in closing, and one of them relates to the finances that the city chose to do for the police, what I call the law enforcement complex. And we had a choice. We could bond, or we could go with this new proposal called certificates of participation. So after a year of study, a year of working it through with staff, with council, discussion after discussion, we determined that we could afford to do the certificates within budget without a tax increase. A bond is a tax increase. So I'm concerned about how we figured out what's financially responsible. I believe that we did the financially responsible thing in that case. And that leads, of course, to the issue of property taxes. Yes, property taxes are going up. But if everybody looks carefully at their bill, they'll see that over the last 2 years, the actual mill levy rate for Idaho Falls went down. It's not the city government that's doing that. Assessments come from the county, and that's what's driving up. Why? Because we're growing. It's one of the negatives. There is negative. And yet it's positive. If I own a home and now it's worth 3 or 4 times what I had it before, I've made a benefit. But at the same time, my taxes have gone up, and I had no control over that. And I understand that. That's something the city government, our government, at the city level, is working with state legislatures to correct, because we have to adjust the tax system. We have to find a way that the sales tax that is collected in Idaho Falls can help to reduce the impact on property tax by coming to the city. That's how we do it, with a reform coming from the legislature, working collaboratively with the city. And my last point is, I am concerned about something that's entered this election that I have not, in my knowledge, seen before in the city. Ida Hardcastle, who I call one of the statesmen of this city, 20 years on the council, told us at the mayor's chili dinner, remember all of you candidates, this city is a nonpartisan city when it comes to city government and elections. It's in the city ordinance, nonpartisan by nature. And yet, creeping into this election is party identification. In it, even after Ms. Hardcastle made that statement, it has continued to stay in the election. That concerns me. If it's lost, we'll never get it back. And if anyone experiences nonpartisan politics and has read James Madison, they know that it is a pleasure to have nonpartisan politics. We don't make deals. We don't log roll in council. And one of the most important things is, our clerk calls the roll randomly. So when we vote, we have to know what our view is. We can't depend on anybody else. I love that, and that's why part of it, I want to keep it. Thank you.
Thank you, and that does wrap up this questionnaire program for the city council candidates that were able to make it today. City of Idaho Falls, I think you're pretty lucky. You have some great candidates. You have people that care. I see nothing but good things in your future. Please join us again on Monday at noon, and we will get to know the mayoral candidates and ask them many of these same questions. Good afternoon, everyone.